Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Enough to Keep Going podcast. This is episode number 73, I say with confidence. It's Tuesday, December 11th. It is 8:50. Well, actually, it's 8:30. We're a little bit late today. A quarter to 9, actually, Central Time. And with me tonight, I have two gentlemen that I know you know and love. I hope you love them. At least like them. We have Mr. DBQ Hams. DB, how are you?
Aw, shucks. Golly, old Cyrus Prime, you're making me all soft inside.
Oh, boy.
Wait a minute, that doesn't sound very well. Nope, doesn't, especially as, nope, never mind. Anyhow, it's good to be here, and this is, man, lots of games to talk about tonight, but definitely kind of in that kind of game of the year wrap-up mode, thinking about what's left, and glad to be here to talk about it.
Yes, we do have some special episodes coming up soon. But before we talk about that, that'll be later in the episode. We have Mr. Agascles. Agascles, how are you doing tonight?
Good, man. How are you guys?
I am well.
Good.
Everybody's good.
That's right. No nonsense. No filler here. So we're gonna jump right in.
We're gonna jump into games now. Before we jump into what we've been playing, as far as the last couple weeks, we're going to jump into the Pickz Playz, which I believe was Mr. DBQ Hams last time.
Actually, it was Swiss Guard's assignment.
I'm sorry. That's right. I forgot. He was not. That's right. He couldn't make the show tonight, so he's getting ready for the upcoming shows. He's preparing himself for the onslaught. Anyways, so the Pickz Playz that he wanted us to play was 2018. What did we have left to play, or what did we go back to play that maybe we kind of fell off on, earlier in the year, mid-year? There's been a lot of games this year. Some good, some bad. We'll see. But I'll start it off. I went back and played a little bit of Assassin's Creed Odyssey on the Google Stream, or Google Chrome, I should say, Project Stream. Still, I didn't have any problems. I played it a couple times. I didn't get to play it as much as I would have liked. But once again, I didn't have any problems with it. It was played pretty well, played pretty smoothly. Can't remember how far. I don't really know how far I am in the game. Probably for the first third still of the game.
Did you get off the first island?
I have not.
Okay,
I'm close though. I'm very close.
Yeah, you were not a third into the game at all, really.
Okay. Well, the first third.
All right. I kept thinking, I must be. I'm 35 hours in on my clock, and I don't know that I'm even chipping away at some of this. So
yeah, I'm not even sure. I don't know if I can tell any time, like the time, because it's on Google's thing. So I don't know if there's any time limit anywhere, or time passage of time anywhere.
Just your save file, I would think, should have your clock.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I think it does tell you that. But yeah,
are you enjoying it? How do you find the gameplay? You didn't really play a whole lot of Origins, correct?
No, I didn't play any of Origins. Unfortunately, I do want to get back to that one day, just because I like the EFC. So, I'm still enjoying this game. I like the kind of RPGs elements of it. You can level yourself up, give yourself different stats and stuff like that. I think I'll mainly put it on the bow right now. A little bit on melee attacks, but mostly on the bow, just so I can strengthen that up. Kind of did that when I was playing Skyrim too. So I'm kind of keeping with that tradition, at least, when I'm playing RPGs. And they have pretty much almost every game has a bow and arrow now, it seems like. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I don't know if, did you get to play that? Yeah, I don't see it on your playlist, but have you played it all recently? Oh yeah, you do have it on your playlist, but that's for later on.
No, I've played pretty much nothing but that. So yeah, I'd be curious to know if you get a chance to go a little bit deeper into it. I've spec'd a lot with warrior and assassin class, mainly because I found the bows pretty underpowered. So if you lean in that direction, I'll be curious to see how you find the combat. But a lot of the combat seems it's a little more. I found it a little more nuanced than Origins.
Yeah. So I don't know if I mentioned this last time or the last couple of shows, but I've actually been doing a lot more stealth kills in this game. It's been a while since I played on Assassin's Creed. I think it was Assassin's Creed 2 was the last one I played. And I get frustrated and kind of just, bum rush people and jump, position myself. I can just jump on the guy, kill him right away, my target or whatever. But here I'm actually doing a lot more stealth kills. at least on like the minor characters. I think I might have mentioned the last time when I tried to do it on the mercenary guys. He just like kicks you out of the way. Like it's like you're nothing to him if you try to stealth kill him. So I think you might hurt him maybe a little bit, but it doesn't really it's not like an insta kill like everything else.
So as you go further in, there are skill tree pieces with Assassin where you can both level up your kind of assassination stealth kill, and then also level up kind of the critical hit on your stealth kills. So, as I'm now in the, I guess, mid-20s, 27 level, it probably that I can get down an elite enemy, take them half to 3/4 down from a stealth kill.
Nice.
So it definitely makes a huge difference if you're playing that way and you can still accomplish that.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely have to start putting more into the stealth area. But yeah, I mean, I'm still enjoying it. I still want to play a lot more, but I think I got till the end of January, I believe.
Actually, I just looked. January 15th is the end of Project
January.
Stream, so I just looked at that tonight, actually.
Yeah, I'll have to play a lot more of that. And I keep forgetting I can play it on I play it on my Surface, so I usually have that. So it's not like I'm tied to I'm on my desktop now, so it's not like I'm tied to my desktop. So I'll definitely have to go into that.
I'd be really curious to hear if we do get any response back, whether us as people who were led into it or just in some type of press release from Google related to Project Stream, and how what they saw as numbers. I'm sure there's a huge drop off of people, but what they've learned from it or the stability aspects of it in terms of what comes next.
Yeah, I wonder if there'll be any kind of like a survey or something they give you, kind of like when you do other betas. I mean, it's basically a beta. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm trying to remember. I think the only other email I've ever gotten from them was when they gave you some of the in-game money. I don't know if you ever got that or not.
It was all on the same email for me, so I've only got.
No, I got like a separate. Maybe I didn't see it the first time around, and they were like, "Hey, you have this money you could spend." So they sent me another so I had to use that on a couple of the packs there. So, but yeah, other than that, that's the only other thing I've received from them. But we'll see. Next up, and it's something actually that Zeus, you've been playing too. I see. On PC though, I've been playing on the Xbox One. Is Red Faction Remastered? How was your time on that?
It's been good, surprisingly. Maybe I should say surprisingly.
Did you play it before?
I didn't. So,
No.
So I've been talking about the history a lot of this in my recent live streams, where I've been playing the game. So I played the original Red Faction, which in its original release was only on PC. And I played it. It was some summer that I had off as I was transferring between stations or something. So it was a pretty focused period of time, and I was able to. It's one of the few games that I've chugged through from beginning to end. And then when the series then transitioned to console, I wasn't as interested in it. By then, DICE was starting to come up with its own destructive environments engine. The one that the guys had done for Red Faction was really kind of the first of its kind in the industry. So I didn't bother playing it on console. And I guess this is technically, I think, like the third one in the franchise.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been fairly interesting revisiting it. It's got a lot of a Grand Theft Auto kind of feel to it, as you kind of just go around and cause certain degrees of mayhem and chaos and recklessness, and maybe arguably more correctly, I should say, has a Saints Row feel to it, since that's what these guys would go on to do thereafter. I've put probably about 12 hours into the game. You eventually start to get more resources and tools and different ways of taking things down. There's a lot of things. I guess maybe one of my gigs on the game is there's a lot of uncertainty in the game where you go into a lot of missions and you're like, what am I supposed to do to prompt this thing to trigger like the success event or move on? You have a lot of missions that are kind of goalpost missions where you have to do one incremental task to proceed on to the next one. And sometimes those things are a little bit unclear. I'm on one now where you have to blow a bridge. I've struck the bridge with the hammer. I've gone all the way down to the bottom of the bridge where the pylons are concrete, and I've struck those. I've hit it with a rocket launcher. pieces of the bridge are falling off, but like I don't know, but I haven't gotten the thing to collapse. So in some ways that's kind of neat. There's kind of an architectural puzzle to the thing, trying to determine what the weak points are in a given structure. The other negative I have about it is missions are all or nothing. So again, in very much GTA fashion, if you get killed during a mission, generally you start the entire mission over. Now I have seen where there are incremental missions where, part of your success is already done, or like when I was attacking the bridge, when I come back, like the damage that I've done to the bridge is persistent. So that's actually a positive. You will, when you go and destroy an outpost and then you drive by that outpost later in the game, the wreckage of the outpost is still there. And in some cases, the EDF forces are still hanging out in the area. Interestingly enough, I took down an outpost last night that was a strategic objective, and then came back by it. The wreckage was there. I had stolen a tank earlier, and I was like, and then I'd lost the tank, and I was like, man, I wonder if the tank has respawned there. Unfortunately, the tank hadn't respawned there. So there's some neat, surprisingly meticulous attention to detail. But then there are some times where there are things that are a bit of a whiff as well. So I don't know, man. What have you found while you've been playing it on Xbox?
Yeah, it's. I mean, I played it back on the 360 when it originally came out. So control wise, I was pretty much fine with it, on the Xbox One. But yeah, I'm enjoying it just as much as I did back when I played it the first time. The destructibility is still there, and it's even better looking now than on the One and the One X. I don't see a lot of like stuttering or like jankiness, like when there's like all kinds of explosions, which I might have thought would happen, but I guess they've optimized it, obviously for the system. So I mean, everything crumbles down, and it's actually pretty cool when you see you take out a chunk of, like, say, a tower, and the whole thing kind of just kind of drops and then just kind of like tips over. It's pretty cool to see those kind of things, those little details like that. It is just doesn't like fall, or it just doesn't like flip over. It has that little kind of like hop down first and then kind of tips over. Have you done a lot of like the side missions, like not really side missions, but like I guess they're kind of like bonus things where you can do like you gotta blow up this thing, in like 2 minutes or something like that, or shoot these things. And,
in general, I've really tried to go. So there are strategic, like you mentioned, there are strategic missions. Well, there are campaign missions. There are area strategic missions, because it's all in kind of Infamous style. It's all about like reducing the amount of the EDF's influence in a given zone, similar to Just Cause as well, until you control an area. So I've gone in and done, because the campaign missions don't always reveal themselves when you're initially in an area. Sometimes you have to gain a certain percentage of control.
Right.
So my approach so far has been to go in and do all of the blue hexagon missions, which are the strategic objectives, and remove as many of those as I can, and then go and then just hit the remaining campaign missions, which are the yellow hexagons. The ones you're talking about are kind of the skill-based ones, and I know I've gone in and done. I've gone in and I did the demolitions one, and then I tried to get it down to the 1 minute timeline, and I couldn't get it. And I was live doing it on stream, and I don't think it was very fun for the viewers that were in there watching me bang my head against that wall. So
you don't have to watch it like 10 million times.
Right.
Like it takes me to do it normally.
Right. And it wasn't really clear to me like what you would get out of it. So I was like, that's fine. So no, I generally try to do those blue missions until they're all gone, and then I do the yellow missions, and then when I went to take over the second zone, which is called Dust, the first one's called Parker, which is the name of the protagonist from the first game. The second zone is called Dust, and when I went to take down Dust, what I want to say, I'd actually cleared all the blue and all the yellow objectives that were available, and it still didn't trigger the takeover. So I went around and did the other green circle missions are the guerrilla support missions, where you just kind of randomly go around and basically participate in acts of terrorism, essentially. So I went around and did those until another yellow mission dropped and became available. But basically, like I said, my approach has been blue, yellow, and if I can get away with doing just that, then I'm good. I'm trying not to get overly bogged down. There's supposed to be about 18 hours of gameplay in the game, is what Game Lengths promotes. So I'm trying to stick. I think I'm probably maybe 2 to 3 hours probably over that right now by my estimate. So I'm trying not to get too far off that.
Yeah, I think
Remastered is a neat game to revisit. It is not necessarily core content for 2018. It's a remake of a game that came out in 2009. So
exactly.
So I'm curious though, as you guys are talking about it, that mission structure seems a lot more kind of intricate than I assumed for a game of this kind of generation. Does that hold up? I mean, does it feel more nuanced than the Destiny iconification, the Ubisoft aspects of what modern game design is, in terms of here's your next icon, there's a waypoint always on your map, because of that? Do you find that is it challenging, or is it kind of refreshing because of its time capsule-esque?
I think it's cool. It definitely kind of set the template for what those games would become. And I don't know if it ever gets any of that credit. It's a little more nuanced than GTA 5. Like, so much of GTA, and I haven't played GTA 5, I'm just going to say GTA. So much of GTA is like busy work, right? Like, I'm just not interested in like going to a place and like chasing down the pizza guy on his moped, right? But these are a little more direct combat oriented. It's a little Far Cry 5 like, in that when you approach an area, you do have an option to kind of consider your tactical options and how you're going to take an area down, but not quite as complex. Because the truth of the matter is, there's only a destructive means to accomplish every mission. There's no like stealth way. It's just a matter of how you're going to destroy it. You know, are you going to clear out all the troops first and then wail away with the hammer? Are you going to go in and just try and destroy as much of it as you can and bullet sponge up as many bullets as you can? And then you kind of get some choices in how you want to make your egress, in terms of and a very interesting thing I found last night was there are these jailbreak missions, and through most of them, you go and you liberate a prisoner, and they just take off and do their own thing. I didn't realize last night, and then there's also this vehicle availability progression thing where different levels of vehicle become more available as you continue on in the campaign. I had discovered these tank-like vehicles that were heavily armored and basically indestructible and would like kind of plow through anything when you drove into them. What I didn't realize is that those are armored personnel carriers. And so last night when I did a jailbreak and I broke like 3 or 4 members of Red Faction out of this EDF prison, and then immediately jumped in the APC, one of them jumped and manned the gun mount, and then the back opened up, and the other 2 jumped in the back of the APC, and then the door closed. And I was like, that's awesome. I never knew that was in the game. But again, you could kind of, but then I've also, had choices where once I did a mission, like I need to get out of the area. I don't care what happens to any of the other Red Faction people that are there. There's a mission where the EDF is shelling the area with artillery, and I'd had to redo it twice. So that time when I got to the end, I was just like, I just looked for like the fastest vehicle I could get my hands on and got the heck out of the area. Before I got, tooled by an artillery shell.
Yeah, I like how the AI attempts to help you. I mean, sometimes they're kind of in the way, like in most games, but I mean, at least they're kind of there to at least distract the enemy. So that's kind of nice.
So to answer your question, DBQ, it is echoey of like current modern open world games that fall into, I guess what I would say is predominantly that Ubisoft pattern. And it's the framework, and it's 50% of the fabric. But I would say what those other companies have done in the last 9 years, the evolution of that subgenre, have been they've wrapped a lot more character and nuance around those set pieces. So they've increased the complexity of tactical options that you have, and they've put a lot more character. Like all the EDF people, like all their voices are the same. There's no really complicated dialogue. If you sit and listen, you can hear the EDF kind of joke. There's some cheesy lines from the guerrillas, but it's not as it doesn't feel as vibrant or alive as some of the newer games do. Interesting fact: one key cast member in the voice crew, Troy Baker, did voice over work for that game. So it's I was surprised. Like, really, this is, I think maybe, I mean, he was a pretty big deal by 2009, but I guess this game still had enough cash, and THQ as a publisher still did to attract that kind of voice talent.
That makes sense though, because he was involved with the Saints Row series for quite a while, so he was always one of the voices there. So, or not always, but I think at least within 3, potentially in 2, that he was a voice. So, in this game kind of nestles right in between there.
Yeah. So I guess because I want to ask you a question, because it's a story question, if you know this or not, and let me know if I'm wrong or not. So the EDF, are they the Rebellion guys from the first, at least the first game, maybe the second game too? Did they take over and become what they didn't want to be, but they obviously they took over the powers that be on the first, or maybe even the second game. I didn't play the second game. I played the first game, and they became the man basically. Am I getting that correct?
I don't have that impression, but okay. that could be part of the lore that I'm missing. I got the impression that Parker, because you actually go back and revisit the facility that is where the climax, the final mission of the first game took place, and you find an alien artifact there. I got the impression that Parker did that and took them down, but and granted liberty and the pursuit of happiness, for a small number of people for a limited period of time, but the EDF just, kind of rolled back in, and now that mantle of rebellion is being passed on to the protagonist, in the third game. Okay. But again, I'm not certain.
For some reason, I got that impression when I was playing, just from hearing like some of the story elements. I don't know. I could be wrong, like I said. And then this is, I guess it's not really. I guess this could be a question because you're in the second area. Do you find it getting harder now, or is it about at the same amount of difficulty as far as enemies and just what you got to do?
It's, I mean, yes, but not like real hard. Like there's some nerf increases, like just enemy density increases.
Right. Yeah.
I would say the big thing that increases the difficulty a little bit is you have the arrival of the Marauders, which is this additional race of they're basically Tusken Raiders essentially. Yeah. And they do a heck of a lot of damage when they hit you with their hand-to-hand weapon. So your approach to fighting them needs to be a little different. And tanks are starting to show up, and tanks change the dynamic on the battlefield. If you can get your hands on one, they're great. But basically, I don't think you can carjack one once the EDF has manned it. Like you can shoot and kill the gunner, but I don't think you can ever get to the driver inside the tank. So in the most recent mission, what I had to do was I had to recognize that the tank was there, and then I just had to rush it and get control of it before any of the EDF people climbed in it.
Okay. I was just wondering because I remember when I played it back on the 360, that last set of missions you do, or the last maybe even area, it got like super hard. I don't know if that's still the case now, but I'll have to play through it again. But we'll see.
The other thing that they do is they increase the toughness of the buildings, and so that architectural puzzle piece gets a little more complicated. There's a lot more interior support beams that may allow the structure to stay up, and so the complexity of that architectural puzzle does increase a little bit.
Yeah, and I remember just that last mission that you do for the to beat the game. It took me like a whole night just to beat that thing because it was like tough. And I think I might have flubbed too on something. I had to bring some kind of weapon or something with me, and I didn't. And they tell you kind of afterwards. It's like, oh well, thanks for telling me that. I would have brought it in the first place, but I finally was able to beat it. So yeah, but I'm still having fun with that game too. I loved it. And I mentioned this before, but the multiplayer, which I don't know if you played or not, or even if there's even a community out there right now, but I love the multiplayer back in the day. I think I've played like 2 matches maybe on the Xbox One. It usually takes forever to find a match. So, but I thought, that kind of, they had like the backpacks that you can find, in the map when you're playing the multiplayer, and it gives you different abilities and stuff. Just kind of echoes, kind of what you see now with abilities that you get these various different games and stuff. So I know I loved it back in the day. Even now when I played those 2 games, I had a lot of fun with it. So of course the first game I think it was like 3-on-1, and I was on the three teams. So I rolled over that guy, but he saved the whole game. So that was nice. But yeah. Any other questions for Red Faction? Did you ever play Red Faction?
Actually, I played it this summer a little bit. I got it through GameFly when it came out. What was that, in June or July? Yeah. So again, I kind of enjoyed kind of petering around in it. I'm a big Volition fan. Saints Row 3 and 4, I've finished twice, each of them, multiple times, right? So that I appreciate what they do in the open world setting. So I was curious. I never played it originally. I had played
Okay.
Red Faction 2, I believe, but obviously this is a drastically different game. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I could see kind of its age, but I could also see kind of the lineage that Agassicles is alluding to as well.
Nice. And just to finish off my games for the Pickz Playz, another open world game, Just Cause 4 came out last week. And I did buy it. I haven't played it yet, but I've gone back now. I'm playing Just Cause 3. I want to try to finish out that story. And I mentioned before, the story's not like super, involved or anything like that. I think they did a little better in Just Cause 3. Just trying to give Rico a little bit more.
Hold on, I gotta ask you a question.
Yeah.
These homework assignments aren't for degrees or anything, but what does Just Cause 3 have to do with the Pickz Playz assignment?
Well, I mean, it's because I have Just Cause 4 to play. That I have that left basically in 2018. So I was kind of like trying to make a thread there. I wanted to play Just Cause 3 so I could start playing Just Cause 4.
It's his wallet justification, is what it is.
That's right.
That he purchased one game, but he needs to finish the other one before he can allow himself.
I think if I'm your professor, I tell you good job, but no credit.
That's fine.
So I'm going to give you guys both a hard time on the Pickz Playz assignment, because I took this as like thinking in the lead up to Game of the Year 2018 games that were not just released, but that were created, right? So the idea of going back to a remastered edition, while good and enjoyable, it was not the direction that I went with my Pickz Playz. So as the teacher's pet, sitting in the front row, completing all my homework early student, I went back to look at some games that potentially are in my Game of the Year discussions, or things that I hadn't really had a chance to tick off. So I guess technically, Prime, I should not cut you off on your Just Cause 3 conversation. So if you do have things to say about this 2015 game, please continue, and I will be here waiting my turn to complete my assignment for full credit.
No, go ahead. You can
go. So anyhow, Into the Breach. So Into the Breach, by the makers of FTL. This was an indie game that came out on PC back in the spring and was released for the Switch the end of August, beginning of September. I was really kind of waiting for it on the Switch, because it's a turn-based strategy game. It's kind of mech. It's almost tile-based, as it is tile-based as well. And over the past weekend with the Game Awards, which Into the Breach won Best Strategy Game, it was also on sale on Steam. It was also on sale on Switch for $10. So I finally picked it up and had a chance to play it over the weekend, and have not sunk a lot of time into it, but have definitely had a chance to sink some time. Got through the tutorial in the first couple of in the first couple of missions on the first island. And so as a strategy RPG player, as a strategy turn-based strategy player, as a Civ and Advance Wars fan, that this game is really scratching that itch of kind of video game chess, right? So here are my moves. I've got my pieces that do different damage and have different abilities, and how can I line them up to clear out? There's a lot of puzzle aspect to this game, in terms of not just simply kind of matching unit types and being able to combat that, but also putting the kind of lining them up in such a way in a sequence so that you're reducing the damage that's being done to the buildings and to your power cores on each map. And so there's definitely the kind of strategy aspect, but there's also a little bit of puzzle in terms of how to minimize that damage. And sometimes, at least so far, it seems like sometimes you can't, right? You're taking the best worst case scenarios and being able to run with them. And so one of the conceits of the game is that in almost a roguelike fashion, that it is a run through the game that, if you die, you die, and that's it, and you start back over. Very similar to FTL, where FTL, your whole point was, to try to get all the way into a certain location within the galaxy, and you were fighting and encountering bigger or potentially bigger, but you could also get a little bit of randomness in there. And so this follows that same suit. So the more that you can conserve your mechs, your units, and your power as you go through, the better off you're going to be, or potentially be, down the line as you keep making your way across the islands. Relatively simple art style, but really kind of, I found myself staying up later than, well, I shouldn't say later than normal, but later than I anticipated, at least playing this game, and not turning it off to go back to other bigger name fancy graphic games. So in the weekend where Smash Ultimate came out, that my time on my Switch was spent playing Into the Breach. And I think, Agasicles, I think this would be a game that's kind of up your alley in terms of some strategy aspects to it. Definitely Swiss with his BattleTech love this year. I think it also fits within his wheelhouse as well.
Well, and I have it on PC. I just haven't had a chance to get around to play it yet.
Excellent. Yeah, cool. Well, I'll be curious. Sounds like something we might be able to talk about in 2019 then, once it hits your rotation, potentially.
I mean, I would, yeah, maybe.
Maybe,
yes.
Right?
Well, I mean, definitely 2019. The maybe is I would hope that I can get to it in 2018, but I'm running out of roadway.
Yeah, I think we all are. That is for sure. The other game that I have in my PlayStation right now is Hitman 2. So again, this was a November release, and I'm not very deep in. I have not played a whole lot of Hitman 1, so I was kind of coming into this fresh, and after spending so much time in Assassin's Creed and kind of trying those stealth kills and realizing that the game, while it may be named an Assassin's Creed game, there's still not a whole lot of. I find myself getting frustrated with the assassination aspect in Assassin's Creed. So Hitman, while I'm only still kind of playing around in the first map and coming at it from different ways, but I find the game engine and the AI a whole lot more intelligent and kind of honoring of my intelligence as well. Right, where in Assassin's Creed, I think I'm lining up something just fine and doing something stealthily, and way off on the side of the map that somebody spots me, or that I think everything was just fine, but suddenly somebody else rolls into town because of the way that the systems work. Where in Hitman, at least at this point, I feel like any problem that has been created has been of my own creation rather than the game kind of stacking the deck against me. And so that I like that aspect, and it's given me a reason to want to come back to this, where I never really had a chance or a whole lot of incentive to dig into Hitman 1. And again, from what a lot of people are saying, that Hitman 2 is pretty much Hitman 2016, just season 2. So a lot of the same, it's the same engine, a lot of the same mechanics. So if you've enjoyed that, or if you haven't, there's a chance to pick it up. And also Hitman 1 is like, Hitman 2016 is super cheap at this stage. So another option there. Questions about either of those, gentlemen? Or am I done buttering up the teacher on my assignment here?
So I just want to make sure I understand your takeaway. So your takeaway is Assassin's Creed, high fidelity game, great graphic looks, but it feels like some of the outcomes for a given mission are a bit contrived. Whereas with Hitman 2, it feels like it's you in the game, and it's not a bunch of elastic catch up effect like you'd get in Need for Speed, so to speak.
Yes, I think the elastic there is a great reference. So yes, Hitman 2, it gives me this big sandbox and this diorama to kind of play around in and to line up and experiment in. Assassin's Creed gives the impression of that as well, and I think really by the time I hit 25 hours in, granted I still spent another 10, I really started to see the cracks and the kind of rubber banding of AI. That I'm stealthily taking down a fort, and a fort that's on an island where there's nothing else there. And because I have triggered 2 other guards to come in to fight on one end of the compound, not even triggered the rest of the compound, suddenly there are mercenaries running in from somewhere unbeknownst on the island that are a level or 2 above me, right? I hit a certain arbitrary threat level within the game system, and it starts spawning enemies within that world. So the whole idea of being able to set up that kind of perfect kill situation completely goes awry based on the artificial aspects within the game. And at the same time, and this segues nicely into my I spent a lot of time with Assassin's Creed over the last couple of weeks. So in one of those situations where things are going awry and my threat level goes up, I climb outside of the walls of the compound, hang off on the side of a boat, not being seen to allow my threat level to go down. One of the mercenaries who came into the compound 2 levels above me, which also means that I can't Spartan kick him or her. My damage just chips away at it and barely does anything. So it's 2 levels above me. I'm sitting there waiting, and my threat level drops down 1 level. And I look up, and that same mercenary is now at my level. So I kind of by the nature of my threat level going down, it adjusted the level of the enemies around me as well. So again, I can see from a game design why you might want to do that, because it keeps you're always in kind of this tense threat situation, but it always feels like I'm stuck in this little box, and even if I figure out a way to kind of move out of it or around it, the game design puts that box right back up on top of me. And so eventually I've as much as I'm loving the world, I adore the characters so much so that I've picked up the novelization of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And the landscapes and the environments, the exploration, and I even love the combat in terms of I'm finding it really nuanced and enjoying it. But it's the game systems that ultimately have kind of, to the point where I've set it down, deleted it from my console, that I have decided that I'm 35 hours in, I've spent enough, but I'm no longer enjoying the mechanisms within the game.
So I think, I don't know, because honestly, I haven't sat down and made my game superlative picks yet, but I'm partially inclined to believe that next week we're going to wind up having a discussion about games that were released this year and their comparison, and some of which are maybe remasters, remakes, reboots, versus games that were purely created in 2018, as you mentioned. But I think we're going to wind up having a discussion about those games and how well some of those things that are being rekindled compete. Because in a lot of ways, it feels like, and I was just looking at, because I have one remaining game purchase to make before the end of the year. And so one of the things I was looking at was what's available and, what the Metacritic scores are. And one thing that caught my eye is how the Battlefield 5 scores have declined since I bought the game. And in a lot of, and I've been talking to some people who've been live streaming Battlefield 5, and a buddy in my office, and hearing what people's criticisms are. We have the Fallout 76. I don't know how many true release success stories there are this year. There are a lot of AAA properties that were in the Hollywood spotlight that fans feel like are very contrived, have these very artificial systems meant to nerf the game or frustrate you deliberately in an effort to keep you playing. I don't know, exactly fully how to describe it, but there are a lot of things that feel like a bait and switch. And I don't mean that from an economic, financial perspective with loot crates. There are a lot of things, like people complained about the Destiny, like XP earning curve nerfing and things like that. It feels like there's a lot, because as you were going through that, I was like, man, have we finally jumped the shark? Are we finally at that point where we're so old and we've been doing this so long that we just are jaded? Like, Assassin's Creed Odyssey has to be like a great game, right? Is it possible that like we're so uber critical of things and so nitpicky about things that we're never going to be satisfied with a game again? And I'm like, no, I think there's this trend in the industry where there's something impure going on in game design. And again, it's not inherently a money grabbing thing. I liken it to golf, right? Like, for a while, a thing that would keep me playing with golf is because I would get a great swing, like out of every 10 swings, right? So 9 out of 10 swings, I was wanting to throw my golf club into the tree line. But, and had I hit a 10th swing like that, I would have just dropped the bag of sticks and walked away, right? But because every 10th swing, there was this dopamine hit, I was like, ooh, I want to keep golfing, right? And it feels like that, and maybe that's what it is. It feels like that dopamine hit has become artificialized, and the recursiveness of the loop is being lengthened. So you're getting fewer dopamine hits, and when you get it, you think it's because you've earned a thing or figured out a system, but in reality, the system is somehow veiled and contrived, and you haven't really learned a skill or become good at the thing that you thought you were good at. So my point is that when I think about what you said, right, like with one of the things I'll mention about remastered, I guess another one of the pluses I have with it is that I've always had a problem with the heat management system in like GTA and also in Need for Speed, and the way it becomes A, overwhelming in some cases, but B, the way that it's very much voodoo as to how you get the heat level to reduce. Particularly in a Need for Speed game, you're like, cops are coming. All right, hold on. I've ducked into this alleyway. Nobody's seen me. My heat level should be reducing, but it like doesn't, or it doesn't go away as quickly as you think it should, or it goes away and like a cop who you shouldn't be in your zone like does see you. Battlefield 5 also has this design element, and I think it's in a similar vein where it doesn't feel like there's a cone of detection, which is what we're normally accustomed to. It feels like there's a sphere of detection when you play those single-player war story campaign. So it feels like it felt like whenever I would get within proximity of an AI, somehow they could detect that I was there, whether I was concealed in the bushes or whatever. It's like I would get within a certain range, I would scope in and see them, and I'm like, why are these guys on alert? Like, I could see from a distance when I looked at them in my binos that they were just completely doing their patrol pattern. Now that I'm closer and I look at them on my assault scope, they haven't seen me or heard me, but now they're all of a sudden in alert condition with their weapons raised. And I'm like, no, there's something contrived going on here. So it's going to be...
No, you're completely right. Sorry, finish up.
Well, I think we're going to have an interesting conversation about, are there old games that were remastered that don't have those trappings in their design elements, and maybe the design is more pure from 5 years or a decade ago versus games this year? Look at the Metacritic score for remastered. Somehow it's amazingly comparative to these games that are 4K and do specular lighting and have ray tracing, right, and all this stuff. So something... I'm thinking of there's some kind of blight I felt that has crept into game design that is skewing things in a kind of impure manner in terms of how the game treats the player.
Oh man, I want to unpack this. I don't know that tonight is the right night, but yes, I really do think that idea of how the game treats the player in terms of that timing is, as a Destiny player from the get-go, right? Like, yeah, my Destiny dopamine hit it takes, I don't get the same level of satisfaction out of it that I used to, and year after year it continues to kind of decrease. And it is some of that recursive pieces, as you're describing that. I can tell you that there have been a half dozen or more situations in Assassin's Creed where I have triggered a battle and had a mercenary come running in, and I've kind of escaped or I've hid, or my threat level is high enough, and I'm coming down the road and I see a mercenary far away, and I'm hiding in a bush, and a mercenary on the road ends up running back and forth basically in the same general vicinity of where I am, because something within the game system has triggered that my character is there within a proximity, but I've never moved from the bush, right? I think I may have 35 hours into Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but a lot of that time is also kind of hiding, quietly creeping, trying to reduce my threat level. Granted, I could pay off my threat level, which is fine, and I've done it a couple times, but it also feels the game system feels relatively cheap when you're in that situation of hiding in a bush and you just see an NPC kind of pacing back and forth 50 yards away from you, because it's never seen you, but something, it smells you, right? There's that idea of it there. So
Smells your fear.
yeah, right. Yeah, it smells my irritation. So yeah, no, I do think that there is something to that, and it's not necessarily, the concern around Odyssey back when it launched was about, kind of paying for double XP. And I don't think that that's really, after playing it for as long as I have, I don't know that that's meaningful at all, because sure, you can do an XP boost, but everything still levels with you, so it doesn't really gain you anything. And I think that is a good question of respect for time, right? And what does that do in terms of what you're playing, and how does it respect your time? Or and it doesn't have to be fair. Sometimes a game, people love Dark Souls, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's always fair, because you can get one hitted by a surprise enemy, but it's also something that you can understand and plan for and come back to. And so, I think there is some interesting aspects there in terms of how things are being designed, so that it does keep you in, it does give you that hit, or it gives you just enough to keep going, but never enough to feel like you're too overpowered. So, yeah, this is a good discussion, way more about Assassin's Creed Odyssey than I had planned. I think I'm curious, Prime, thinking of things where you could get, overpowered, or keep you going back in, as you've been playing Blackout. Does that dopamine hit work within the Call of Duty Battle Royale aspects?
Yes, it's actually back for me, because for a couple of years now I had kind of fallen off of Call of Duty. Now it's like I want to jump back into it, just like I used to, like when I was playing like the first Black Ops, and even the second one to a lesser extent. Yeah, I just want to go back in there and play Blackout all the time. Like I don't even play the multiplayer anymore. I just go straight to Blackout. Before I was kind of bouncing back and forth between that and the regular multiplayer, and I still haven't played zombies. I've never really been a zombies person, but maybe one day I'll try it out again. I've tried it out. I think I mentioned in World at War. That was a long time ago. But yeah, I haven't even tried it yet in the new game. Excuse me. Yeah, and actually, I mentioned this to you earlier. I actually did a stream of it a few days ago. I haven't posted it yet. I've got to kind of work on it a little bit, but it's the first stream I've done in I don't know how long, a few months now. So it was actually kind of neat to actually do that again, to get into the stream, and it's been fun. I found a lot of cool people once again. Actually, just randoms this time. I wasn't even doing the looking for groups. Just been playing with randoms more or less lately, and I found a group of guys that I've been able to jump back and forth. Actually, a few different group of guys that I've been able to go back and play with if I see them online. So it's been really fun. I've been having a lot of fun with it, yeah, I'm getting that dopamine hit again, and it's kind of nice, because I fell off of it. It's been a while, so let's get going here, because we're running out of time. Zeus, did you have anything else on your picks? I know you had a few more games on there. If you want to kind of just mash them up, maybe with DB, because you both been playing Super Smash Bros.
Well, I haven't actually played it. That part of my list, or just my list of the things that are in my priority queue to get through. I will be hitting up Assassin's Creed Odyssey next on the Xbox One, and then in the queue after that will be Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I also picked up Diablo 3 and Wolfenstein 2, but I'm not so much sweating playing those right off the bat. Those may just automatically go into the backlog. But I do want to hit up Odyssey and Super Smash Bros. Definitely before the end of the year. if not before our superlative show. One of those, at least, I will definitely get to.
Yeah, I'd be curious on anybody's other opinion on Odyssey, right? Like I have become a relatively strong opinionated person on it, so I'll be curious to see where everybody else lands. Yeah, Ultimate in Smash is Smash, and it looks great. And I have had a chance to play with my sons, but they have been unlocking like crazy. So I don't have a whole lot to talk about Smash because it's Smash, and if you know that you've liked it before, chances are you're going to like it again.
What do you think? I guess the big thing was having to unlock all the characters, or most of the characters, because you start off with just like the main, what is it, 8 or 9?
Yeah, you almost start off with like the original, almost the, the Melee N64 type of
roster,
small roster. Yep. And so there's lots of ways to do it. Some of them are through kind of classic battles. The Spirits adventure mode's another way to do it. So there's a couple different avenues for a lot of different characters, and sometimes you do need. I've had conversations taking my kids to school of them planning out what characters they're going to unlock and how, and you need to unlock certain characters to then be able to unlock another character. There's a whole kind of tree system to it. It's the Smash Brothers multi-level marketing scheme. So
so you mentioned playing with your son, so obviously local multiplayer. Have you played online? You mentioned Spirits too. Have you played those other modes?
The Spirits mode's pretty neat. Again, it is not Smash Brother, or it's not Subspace Emissary. It's an overworld map, which really is just moving from node to node, and then you end up in just simple battles. But single battles, not simple battles. The battles are over different spirits, which spirits are kind of all Nintendo and other related properties. Side characters and enemies and different things. And so my son, right before the podcast, was playing and unlocking Raphael the Raven, or a character from Yoshi's Island back on Nintendo or SNES. But it was a Smash Brothers character, and then kind of modded in such a way so it was a big DDD all in black to be the Raven. So they end up taking the existing characters and kind of giving them kind of unique spins or giving them items to be themed around whatever other character you're going to be unlocking. So it's kind of, I mean, it's creative. There's a lot there, a lot of detail. The online seems to work pretty well. Again, I can tell you that I've observed my sons playing online, but I haven't had a chance to play it myself.
Yeah, I've only played a couple games so far, and I didn't have any problems as far as lag or anything like that. So it seems to be stable, at least for now. And the Spirits, they basically seem like an evolution of the trophies you used to be able to unlock, and they actually help you now within the Spirit gameplay. So, and it's kind of nice that you can do. There's a couple different modes in there. There's the adventure mode, and then just like you can pick a spirit. There's like every few minutes or whatever, or hour, there's different spirits that unlock on that one board.
Yeah, and the Spirits are actually, I mean, they add a little bit of depth and strategy to it, because they could buff you for something or give you a resistance to something else. So if you're in the adventure mode, if you're having trouble with a certain kind of play style, that leveling up a certain spirit that might counter that allows some nuance there.
Yeah, so it's great fun. I'm happy this came out this year.
Have you had a chance to play it a little bit, or are you playing? And if you are, I've only really played it on TV. I haven't played it handheld.
I've only played on handheld so far. I haven't put it on the TV yet. I'm sure once my son gets a hold of it, he'll want to play on the TV so we can play together. So we'll do that. Yeah, I haven't. It looks good in handheld. So I mean, looks fine to me. So of course, Nintendo always, they can optimize their own games. So they're usually pretty good at that. Real quick, I just want to jump into a couple of games I played. Actually, with a friend of mine that I haven't talked to in a while. He actually hit me up on Facebook, and he was, let me know that he got a Switch. He's wondering if I want to play some games. So I was like, yeah, jump into something. So we played Fortnite at first. He'd been playing on the PC for last 4, 5, 6 years, maybe even longer. So this is actually his first console in a long time. So he's a little rusty. And I was like, don't worry, because I suck at this game anyways. It's Fortnite. I can't wrap my head around this game. I just can't get it. But I had fun with it because I was obviously with a friend and somebody I know, so we had a good time when we were playing it. And then I let him know about I gave him the whole list of free games that you can get on the Switch. So he just got it, and he downloaded more. We jumped into that and we're playing that. So that was a pretty good time. That going through Warframe. This game is still confusing to me, though. I just don't understand it. This is another game I don't understand. Not because Fortnite obviously it's a shooter. I have problems with the shooting mechanics in that game. Warframe is just like a whole other animal. There's like so much you can customize and buy and do this other stuff. So I had to play it more, basically get used to it. But once again, had a lot of fun because I was playing with a friend, so we got that going. Mr. Guest, please. There's a game here that I want to talk to you about. PUBG. First of all, what made you decide to start playing this game?
Yeah, let me try and remember this. So I think this was so actually and again, this is a little bit how dynamics are changing with me allocating some more time to live stream. Actually, viewer came into my live stream who is a follower on my Facebook page, which is where I'm streaming this month, and actually made a request for me to play PUBG. I was playing the Battlefield 5 War Stories, and they were asking, if I played anything competitive multiplayer, and I gave them the whole spiel about, like, I'm not really into that, but they wanted to see me live stream some competitive multiplayer stuff. So, we went through a bunch of different options, and I was like, well, I could go from here into Battlefield 5 and try that multiplayer and blah, blah, blah. But they had actually asked for PUBG, and I said, I'm not a PUBG player. I said, but you know what? I'll give it a whirl, right, for a viewer. So I went ahead and loaded it up and gave it a whirl. I'm actually, I really like the voice comms on it. I'll mention that as part of the design. The voice comms implementation is really good on that as far as audio mix balance that automatically sets itself. I didn't have to futz around with getting the comms to work like I sometimes have to do in Destiny 2 because part of the code is over in freaking battle.net, but then there's alternate voice comms code it's a bad API integration on Blizzard's part. I really kind of that's a little bit of the software developer grognard in me. I was really surprised that I jumped into a game and immediately people were on comms on PC. So that was fairly impressive. I like it. I asked you a couple questions about it, Prime, about does it have the 59 different subsystems like Fortnite does in its own language that make things ridiculously confusing unless you're part of the unionized tradecraft, membership of Fortnite. It doesn't have that. There are a couple esoteric things. But what was cool was I got squatted with some people. I was just honest. I told them, hey, look, I'm sorry. This is if you guys are really wrapped in the act about winning. This is my first time playing PUBG. But I was able to ask them a few questions about hey, so how do you I see that I can pick up all these weapon attachments, but I don't understand how to actually attach them to the weapon. And they were just hit tab and button this and that. And so I figured that out fairly quickly. So it was actually a pretty decent time. The first match, I actually came in 7th.
Nice.
Because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So in some cases, I was actually running away from where the circle was about to collapse. So I wound up avoiding a lot of combat. And then I finally caught a clue but I actually scored my first kill in the second match. So it's a neat balance and mix between a pure shooter and some of the extra layers that are put in a battle royale game. On my screen, it's weird. I've commented about the weak graphics foo of the whole thing on my screen, and I was playing on the machine with the RTX 2070 in it. There are stages and levels and pieces of it that I'm come on, really? This is a professionally coded video game in 2018 where it looks very subpar. But then there are other points where I'm oh no, this looks really good. So it was overall it was pretty fun. I have not a couple times I've been I should go back to it. And already I'm I've hit that how much time am I going to spend getting in and getting back into it? So, but it has mounted up my interest where I've made a quick list. It's in my head. I haven't written it down yet of there are 7 games that I've latched on to very tangentially at different times of this year, like Fortnite, PUBG, Rocket League, Star Trek Bridge Commander, Paladins, Warframe, and maybe one other that I really just need to get them installed, and I need to put those shortcuts like in a separate folder so I can create some focus time to play those. And then I thought, well, but I also really had a bunch of fun playing Call of Duty Ghosts multiplayer, which I was very surprised that there's a small community, but they're a very persistent community that still plays that game multiplayer. So as we get into over the holiday break, I'm probably going to focus a little bit more on getting back to at least some multiplayer time.
Nice. Yeah, I gotta say, as much as I kind of people rag on, and even I've ragged on Ghosts, I did like the multiplayer. It was just kind of the single player story to me that I was kind of just bad. It was just kind of generic. But yeah, multiplayer was always spot on. I mean, it was a Call of Duty game at that point. They were still cranking them up pretty good. But as far as PUBG, yeah, I mean, PUBG's it's pretty simple. I mean, you grab guns, you try to hide. You're either gonna hide or you're gonna just go all out and try to kill the other squads and stuff. So there's no building, there's nothing like that. There's vehicles, which I actually like the vehicles better. I think the best in PUBG than Fortnite only has. They're kind of goofy, the vehicles in Fortnite, but even from Call of Duty and Blackout, the ATV, it handles pretty well, but there's like a bigger transport truck that's kind of janky as it drives and stuff like that. And I mentioned this before. It uses the Halo controls where you're just using the sticks to, accelerate and decelerate. And I hate that. I really hate using the sticks to do that. PUBG is much better, using the buttons, the triggers at least, and stuff like that. So it's a little better. Obviously there's going to be bugs and stuff like that, but I've always had, a pretty good time in PUBG. I think there's always, when I've been playing that, there's always more tension when I've been playing PUBG than in the other Battle Royale games that I've played so far. It just seems like maybe because it's more realistic graphics, or it seems a lot more people talking PUBG, but there's always that there's people over there. So what do you want to do? You want to run away, or do you want to go toward them? What are we gonna do? So it's cool. It's just it's a good experience if you're playing that game. All right, gentlemen. Any other games you want to talk about before we?
I just want to mention the DBQ while we got him online. And DBQ in that list, I'm probably going to finally get back to playing a little bit of Crucible in Destiny as well. So I know you and I played one time. I was not super enthused about spending any more time doing that, but if you're willing to give that a roll, I'm probably going to be a little less resistant to that in the future.
Sure. Yeah, I even put in some Crucible time this week. So, yep.
All right. I guess because you have Rocket League. DB, do you have Rocket League? I can't remember.
PlayStation, I do.
Oh, just PlayStation, not the Switch. Okay, I think Swiss might have got it on the Switch, maybe. Yeah. So we'll have to try to find a night where we can get together and play that.
Yeah, I think I have it on Switch, PC, and either Xbox or PS4. I can't remember which. I think I got it on. I think there was a time on PS4 where it was free.
It launched free on PlayStation 4.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I have it over there. Yep.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, so let's talk the end of the year shows here, gentlemen. We're going to have a show next week, probably an extended show. I think we're still trying to iron out the details on that. But we're going to go through our game of the year, which is a little bit different maybe than other shows. We're not going to just do straight up, hey, I think, Call of Duty's, the game of the year and stuff like that, or, best graphics and stuff like, do that kind of things. We like to, mix it up a little and have a little bit of fun. We have these, some good straightforward categories, but we have other goofy categories that we kind of, bring out that, what's the, I wouldn't say this is goofy, but, what's the best family game, or, what are we going to be playing, next year at the same time, or, early in the year, mid-year? Are we going to be sticking to what we've been playing now, or are we going to, just go, off and play the the million games that are supposed to come out on, I think, in February or early March. So there's like a ton of games. There's like another holiday season right there that there's gonna be a ton of games coming out. But
yeah, I think our revisit loop time, between our GoTY show and February, it's gonna be very short. Yeah. Whatever you haven't played by then, I think you're gonna be done with for a while.
Oh yeah. So we're gonna do that. I believe Tuesday. At least start at Tuesday. We might break it out into 2 shows. I think we're gonna do probably an extra long show maybe on Tuesday around the same time, 8:15, 8 o'clock Central Time. And then we'll pick. I think we're just going to do the one show, and then we'll pick back up next year. Maybe kind of split it up that way. Pick back after the holiday season, after the new year, and kind of finish off the game of the year discussion and what we think about for the coming year. That kind of thing. I guess, please, did you have any other shows that you're going to be doing running out the year?
So the What's Your Issue podcast, I'm pretty sure I think I asked Steven this. I think our intention is we're going to roll through the holiday season, continuing to do our show every week because comics ship every week. They don't take a holiday off.
There's no holidays.
Right. So we'll continue that coverage. We're a little janky this week because it was my wedding anniversary this week, and we've had to push that show to Wednesday, which I hate doing because that's New Comic Book Day, and so new comic books come out, and I don't know if anybody's going to want to listen to our reviews of comic books that shipped last week. But actually, I think people do that. I think they don't get to pick up the show on Tuesday morning or Monday night, and so they're listening to our reviews of the preceding week's comics while they're getting started with their new stack. So I think we'll be okay. But so we're recording tomorrow night, and we'll continue recording hopefully on our regularly scheduled nights on Mondays for the rest of the year. Dave Pecci and I are going to do. We do want to do a podcast covering the last episode of The Gifted before they went on hiatus. They will return. I think the show comes back the last week of January, I think. But we don't want to let the one remaining show linger and not discuss it until 2019. So we are trying to figure out a time to do that. And then the It's Another Thing movies crew and I there's a bit of a squeeze going on with some things, and I got to figure out where to fit that show in. So that's it for the rest of the year. I do want to mention, starting in January, we're going to be adding a fifth show to the lineup. The title is in work, so we don't know exactly what it's going to be called. But we will have 2 additional cast members who will be joining to kick off a show that I've been trying to put together for a very long time, which is a focus on live streaming of video games and the technology, the software, and the services, as well as the social circles and communities and social issues that come up in live streaming. We have an objective to have a guest on at least once a month. This is probably going to be a twice a month show with one of those 2 shows having a guest each month. So you will have an opportunity to get to know some of the members of the live stream community and hear them participate in that discussion as well.
All right, cool. Yeah, definitely going to check that one out. Obviously, like I said, I'll start streaming again. Unfortunately, I just don't have time to kind of make a regular schedule to do that, unfortunately. But I get to try to do it every once in a while that I can. So we'll see how it goes in this coming, the rest of the year and the coming year, 2019. All right, gentlemen, any last words for us before we head out? Nothing? All right, so
nope. Thanks again.
Yep, check back next Tuesday. We will definitely be having a show of some kind. And then obviously check out the rest of the network shows that are finishing out the year and coming up next year. So on behalf of DBQ Hams and Agassicles, I am Osiris Prime. Good night.